This week on my Deck News Roundup, Valve talks about what's happening with Steam Deck in 2023, Nintendo issues another DMCA, Miles Morales plays well on deck, not to mention I came across a video called Valve's Gambling Problem that I really want to discuss here with other die-hard Valve fans just like myself. So let's get into it. What's good, Deck Gang? Welcome back to my regular Deck News Roundup videos. There's plenty of feel-good news for today, but we're going to start with Nintendo's latest action against Steam's faithful users, especially those of us that are tinkerers. Of course, as we get started, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel to grow, which is great for you because it helps me to get Steam keys to give away like the ones that I have added at some point in this video. Also, I've got a new thumbnail style and new profile picture, so watch out for that as you see new FanTheDeck videos in your feed. Okay, so I love Nintendo. I've had every Nintendo platform and I'll continue to do so. In the last few generations, Nintendo has aimed to sidestep the competition by setting itself apart from the Xboxes and the PlayStations of the world. Critically, I think this is a strategy that makes them as successful as they are, but they also like to protect their properties fiercely, and they are once again back to their old shenanigans. GBA Temp has reported that Nintendo has issued a series of DMCA takedowns, but this time against Steam Grid DB. Like, really? Steam Grid DB never bothered nobody, so how could Nintendo do this? This is a particularly egregious action from Nintendo because Steam Grid DB simply hosts user submitted images. Literally, images. SteamGridDB.com is a website that allows users to download and share custom images of video games with the purpose of being used on Steam. This database contains assets of Steam games if you want to replace the stock images, but there are also images for non-Steam games and games that are not on PC altogether, including Nintendo games. In that way, a lot of people that use Steam and enjoy emulation could use Steam Grid DB to make their emulated library look better if they do want those games on Steam. In fact, if you're familiar with emulation on Steam Deck, then you know that EmuDeck is probably the best way to get your emulated library onto your deck, and it includes a workflow that pulls images from Steam Grid DB when adding games to your Steam library. But here's the thing, Steam Grid DB has been around since 2016 and people have been uploading Nintendo images for probably just as long. So why would Nintendo choose right now to get some of these images taken down? Well, Nintendo didn't ask for everything to be taken down, at least not yet. These are the games for which they ordered a DMC takedown: Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Splatoon 3, Super Mario Odyssey, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. The obvious thread here is that Nintendo is taking down images of their most popular games for the Switch, which is of course their current generation platform. Moreover, I would argue that the buzz for emulating Switch games has never been higher for a couple of reasons. The number one reason I would say is the Steam Deck. Here is a platform that is a portable hybrid just like the Nintendo Switch, and it makes PC gaming so much more accessible to the average player. EmuDeck takes this philosophy further by making emulation as accessible as I've ever seen. With the help of Steam ROM Manager, it makes your library of emulated games look downright gorgeous on the Steam Deck, and the Deck is a platform that's capable of emulating Switch games pretty well, albeit not perfectly. Now, let's couple that with the recent release of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. This game duo is a first-party exclusive and runs absolutely terribly on the only platform it was developed for, rarely hitting its 30 FPS target. While you can't emulate it yet, and I'm sure it would have trouble on the Steam Deck regardless, you will eventually be able to have better performance on this game through emulation than through Nintendo's own platform. And while the developers are to blame more than the platform itself, this culminated in Switch 2 and Switch Pro trending on Twitter. And this all happened right after the DMCA takedowns were issued. This is a perfect storm where folks are clamoring for a new Switch, interest in emulation feels like it's at an all-time high, and the Switch, for the first time in this generation, has competition. No, the Steam Deck will not move anywhere near 100 million units, but the unique selling proposition of the Switch is not so unique anymore, and Nintendo finds itself unable to sidestep the competition like it's been used to doing for about a decade now. And this is why I think Nintendo is scared of the Steam Deck. Not because of what the Steam Deck is now, but the possibilities that the Steam Deck can open up for years to come. Nintendo's best chances for success are in its ability to avoid comparison, and the Steam Deck represents a threat to that. But that's just me. What do you think? Is Nintendo scared, or did I make that all up on my own? How do you feel about the DMCA takedown? Let me know in the comments. And if my thumbnail for this video wasn't proof enough that I like to kick the hornet's nest, well, did you know that archive.org has a DMCA exemption to help archive vintage software? Yep, check it out. Perhaps this applies to Steam grid style images too, so if you want to share that sort of stuff, it might be a good idea to upload it to archive.org, but if you want to be doubly safe and hide this action, well, no one's got you covered more than today's sponsor, Surfshark. For an audience that loves the Steam Deck, I already know I'm preaching to the choir when I say that security and privacy are important. So I'm sure you would also already know that a VPN is a valuable tool in the toolbox when it comes to either of those two things. That's why I'm excited to tell you about the Black Friday special from Surfshark, where they're offering 85% off and 3 extra months for viewers of FanTheDeck. But if you don't know what a VPN is, it's a method of secure communications that protects your connection while using the internet. It makes your browsing private, hides your IP address, and ensures that even your internet service provider doesn't track you. I recently got back from a hotel stay and the hotel had completely open Wi-Fi. There wasn't even a portal to enter your room number in. In situations like that, it is key to have a VPN to encrypt your data and keep you safe even on public Wi-Fi. This includes sending or receiving files, accessing your bank data, or entering your credit card info. On top of that, a VPN lets you look like you're surfing the web from somewhere other than where you are. Did you know that the Czech Republic has the best Netflix library for movie buffs? Or that there are still some Marvel media that you can't find in the US but you can get in other countries? There's no reason to limit yourself to your country's library when you can virtually travel the globe and see what different services have to offer. Thankfully, Surfshark has made this incredibly easy with no device limit and apps that work on basically any platform. So if this is something you've been thinking about for a while, now's the time to jump in with the best deal I've ever seen. If you go to surfshark.deals/FanTheDeck and use the promo code FanTheDeck, you will get 85% off and an extra 3 months for free. Check it out and let me know what you think, and thanks again to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. So here's a fun thing Valve did. As part of a preview to the 2023 installment of the PC gaming show, Valve produced a video showcasing the Steam Deck and teased that there's plenty more in store for Steam Deck in the next year and beyond. One key point is that they mentioned that they'll start shipping to the new Asian regions by the end of the year. I know a lot of folks have placed reservations and have been waiting to hear news about shipping, and as far as I know, this is the most concrete information we've gotten so far, so we can at least look forward to that. Casey also closed with a great summary of what Valve and the Steam Deck are all about, so here it is in her words.
So essentially this represents everything we're about, continuing to make PC gaming as powerful and accessible as possible to as many different kinds of gamers as we can, all while continuing to push that technology forward for players and the industry as a whole. So there's a lot more to come. We have so much planned with Steam Deck for 2023 and well into the future.
Essentially, this represents everything we're about, continuing to make PC gaming as powerful and accessible as possible to as many different kinds of gamers as we can. That's really it, isn't it? When I entertained a discussion about whether the Steam Deck is a PC or console, I'm really referring to this, the ability of Valve to make PC gaming so much more accessible to so many more people. I love to see it. Last week saw a big release to the Steam Deck with the PC port of Spider-Man Miles Morales. This title was deck verified prior to the release, so we knew it should perform well enough, and naturally this port delivered. It's the same engine as Spider-Man Remastered, and the performance is very similar to that, so there's not a whole lot to talk about, so I'll just give you 3 key points for this port. Number 1, it has top-notch Steam input support. If you go into the Steam menu and look at the controls, you can see the buttons are labeled with the appropriate actions like web strike, dodge, and swing. Similarly, if you go to remap button, you'll see the full list of actions you can map to a given input. Also, just like last time, gyro is enabled by default and is set to a pleasant sensitivity that helps you when playing, even though you probably don't even realize it's on. Number 2, SteamOS 3.4 provides you with the least input latency while never actually introducing screen tearing as far as I've seen. The Fox did an incredibly thorough breakdown on this, which I'll link in the description. He showed that at 40 Hz, allowing screen tearing could reduce latency by an additional 10 to 20 milliseconds. One full frame at that refresh rate is 25 milliseconds, so that's a really impressive gain. And number 3, there are a wealth of settings that can help you tune the performance of this game however you want to. I've seen several YouTubers now reduce things like traffic density and crowd density to low, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I played several hours with just the default settings to see how that played, and I'll say it played pretty well, but the thing I wanted to address the most was battery life. So I set the FPS limit to 30, Then I set a TDP limit of 11 watts. With these very minimal changes, I was able to get 2 hours of gameplay pretty easily. There were some severe dips during cutscenes, but according to the Fox's video, these are going to happen regardless. So once again, this is an awesome port from the folks over at Sony, and most specifically the good folks over at Nix's Software, who are really showing what's possible when you not only care about PC, but also Steam and Steam Deck particularly, so good on them. The last topic for today is a tricky one as a big fan of Valve. A YouTube channel by the name of People Make Games published a video called Valve's Gambling Problem. By now you may have at least seen the thumbnail fly by, but it's possible you didn't give it a click. Well, I really want to urge you to watch it because that video is an amazing deep dive into the world of gambling sites that are built on CSGO's skin economy, and I've got to say it's a lot more troubling than I even realized. I hold Valve in a very high regard. After all, they make my favorite gaming platform and my favorite gaming device. But in order to hold them in such a high regard, I have to hold them to a high standard too, and this video shows one place where Valve has fallen short of that standard. The short version is this: there are gambling sites that are built on the backs of Valve's skin economy and Valve's open API. They allow you to use your CSGO skins as chips in a casino, you can bet them against other skins or on upcoming esports matches and more. If you win, you get more skins so you can continue gambling. And on top of that, it all skirts around any regulation because you never need a bank account or credit card to play. For 10 years, these online casinos have exercised predatory marketing and shady business practices, including marketing to underage gamers and effectively encouraging underage gambling. People Make Games interviewed these gamblers as well as Valve's own former employees, and the picture this paints is pretty clear. These sites are taking Valve's most active customers in their most formative years and encouraging a gambling addiction that becomes increasingly hard to break as they grow into adults, and sadly, Valve has done very little to stop them. And Valve can do something about this. As one former developer put it, one of the cultural philosophies that has led to this inaction from Valve is that they have a, quote, desire to have things be as open and accessible as possible, end quote. While that is an admirable cultural tenet, regulation exists for a reason, and Valve exercises the power to regulate elsewhere, so why not here? Moreover, I think the problem exists a lot earlier than this. Valve's own skin economy is built completely on loot boxes. We rightfully admonish other game companies when they use loot boxes, and I think we should hold Valve to the same standard. And by the way, I'm clearly not calling for a boycott or anything like that. I just think that this topic is one that's worthy of discussion and that this video is one that's worthy of signal boosting. But that's just me. What do you think? Would you like Valve to do something about this? Do you think they have some level of responsibility? Let me know in the comments. That video, by the way, which is 36 minutes long, took months of research, and there's a follow-up coming too, so there's no way I could do it justice in this small segment. So, like I said, go check it out for yourself to see if you agree that Valve needs to address this. Congrats to the few people who caught the keys sprinkled in this video. If you missed them this time, don't worry, I'll have more. In fact, I have a Black Friday video coming and you're not going to want to miss that, so make sure you turn on your notifications. If you want to prepare for that, make sure to watch my accessories video. Deck Gang out. Goodbye!